For years, you've been told that God demands 10% of your income. Pastors quote Malachi 3 verse 10, warning that if you don't tithe, you're robbing God. Churches pass offering baskets, urging you to give or face financial curses. But what if I told you, God never asked for 10%? What if the modern tithe is nothing like what the Bible actually teaches? Today we uncover the shocking truth about tithing, and it will change everything you believe about giving. This message may upset some people. It may even anger religious leaders, but the truth is worth fighting for. Meet Sarah, a devoted believer who faithfully tithed 10% of her meager income, trusting God to provide. Yet instead of blessings, she fell deeper into debt, while her pastor drove a luxury car. Sarah isn't alone. Millions of sincere Christians are trapped in a system God never designed. Today we set the record straight. What was the biblical tithe? Let's go back to the beginning. Most Christians assume tithing means giving 10% of their paycheck to the church, but that's not what the Bible describes. In the Old Testament, the tithe was not money, it was food. God commanded Israel, an agricultural society, to give 10% of their crops and livestock. Not salaries, not cash, not PayPal donations. Why? Because this tithe fed the Levites, priests who had no land, supported the poor, and stocked feasts where communities celebrated God's provision. Imagine a farmer bringing his 10th cow or sheaf of wheat, not writing a check to a megachurch. This was a system for their time, their culture. But today, we've twisted it into something God never intended. The Levitical tithe, a welfare system. The Levites were the tribe set apart for temple service. Unlike the other tribes, they didn't inherit land. Numbers 18 verse 20-24. So God instituted the tithe as their livelihood, a form of ancient social security. This wasn't about funding lavish lifestyles. It was about survival. Somehow, we've gone from support the priests to buy your pastor a private jet. How did we get here? The 3 tithes? Most Christians don't know this. Here's something pastors won't tell you. Israel didn't give just one 10% tithe. They gave 3. The Levitical tithe, Numbers 18, 21-24, supported priests. The festival tithe, Deuteronomy 14, 22-27, used for communal feasts. The poor tithe, Deuteronomy 14, 20-29, every 3rd year helped widows and orphans. That's right, Israel's total giving was closer to 23%, not 10%. And still, it was never about money. So why do churches today demand a flat 10% of your income? Who changed the rules? The festival tithe, a time of celebration. The second tithe wasn't given to the temple, it was eaten by the people themselves. God commanded them to set aside food for festivals where they celebrated His goodness. Deuteronomy 14:23. Imagine your church telling you to take 10% of your income and throw a block party for your neighborhood. That's closer to God's heart than guilt-driven giving. The poor tithe, God's heart for the needy. Every 3rd year, the tithe went entirely to the poor. Deuteronomy 26:12. God didn't just ask for 10, He demanded justice. Yet today, how many churches hoard millions while members struggle to pay rent? Where is the poor tithe today? Why aren't we following God's actual model instead of cherry-picking verses to fill coffers? Jesus never collected tithes. Think about it. Jesus never commanded tithing. Not once. He healed the sick, fed the poor, and rebuked religious leaders for greed, but He never passed an offering plate. Jesus told the Pharisees they were right to tithe herbs, but He never told His followers to do the same. Instead, He taught radical generosity, giving to the needy, selling possessions, helping the oppressed, not funding lavish church buildings. But today, pastors insist you'll be cursed if you don't fund their private jets. Something's wrong with this picture. The early church's model, no tithing. The early Christians didn't tithe. They shared everything. Acts 2:44-45. No one was in need because they gave freely, not under compulsion. That's the New Testament standard. When did we replace radical love with religious taxation? The Malachi 3 scam. This is the most abused verse in the Bible. Malachi 3:10 says, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse." But who was God speaking to? Not the church. He was addressing ancient Israel under the law of Moses. The storehouse was a temple granary, not a church bank account. And the curse was a famine warning for covenant-breaking Israel, not a threat against Christians who don't tithe. How many struggling believers have been guilt-tripped into giving money they couldn't afford because of a verse taken out of context? The "test me" verse twisted. Preachers love quoting "test me" in this, but ignore the rest. God promised to open the windows of heaven, which meant rain for crops. Deuteronomy 28:12, not a blank check for believers. This was an agricultural promise to Israel, not a prosperity gospel loophole. New Testament giving, no 10% rule. The New Testament never commands tithing. Instead, it teaches cheerful, voluntary giving, Colossians 9:7. The early church shared everything. No one was in need, Acts 4:32-35. They gave out of love, not obligation. Paul never said, "Give 10% or God will curse you." He said, "Give what you decide, no guilt, no fear." That's true biblical giving. Generosity beyond tithing. Real giving changes lives. It's not about percentages, it's about love. The widow's mite, Mark 12 verse 41-44, wasn't a tithe, it was her all, and Jesus praised her sacrifice, not her math. The modern tithing deception. Let's be honest, the modern tithe is big business. Pastors build empires while members struggle. They twist scripture to fund their lifestyles, all while ignoring the poor. Is this what God wanted? A system where the rich get richer and the poor are told to sow a seed they don't have? The prosperity gospel trap. The prosperity gospel turns giving into a cosmic vending machine. Pay 10%, get a miracle. But that's witchcraft, not Christianity. God's blessings aren't for sale. How should Christians give? Giving is good, but it must be from the heart. Support your church if it's honest. Help the needy. Give joyfully, not under compulsion. And never let anyone manipulate you with false guilt. The truth will set you free. Share this message. Break the chains of religious manipulation. And remember, God never asked for 10%. He asked for your heart. Feel free to share your opinion via the comment section below. Until next time, have a blissful day ahead.